Sandy extended her hand, brimming with nuts and berries, to a bushy-tailed squirrel perched on her office windowsill. Its glossy eyes gleamed with delight as it nibbled food from her hand. Without warning, a pencil whizzed through the air like a missile, its pointed tip impaling the squirrel's eye with surgical precision. The creature let out a blood-curdling screech, its small body convulsing in agony before tumbling to the ground. Sandy's heart stopped in her chest as she spun around, eyes wide to find her boss Ralph glaring at her, his face twisted in a snarl of contempt. "I thought I warned you about those vermin near my office," Ralph growled, his breath a putrid cloud that hung in the air like spoiled milk. "Yes, sir, I just thought—" Ralph's voice erupted, halting Sandy's words in her throat. "I don't pay you to think. I pay you to type. If I want to know what you think, I'll tell you," he snarled, slamming the window shut with a force that resonated through the room like a warning. Sandy's face turned flush. Her body trembled, yet she held back the tears threatening to burst. Not today. She would not give him the satisfaction. Glancing around the office, she caught the averted eyes of her colleagues, each face turned back to their work in silent complicity. As the office lights dimmed and the day's tension faded into oppressive silence, Sandy kneeled before the dead squirrel, cradled in bloodied autumn leaves. She plucked the pencil from its eye and placed the small limp body in a cardboard box she scavenged from the supply closet. Sandy rushed through the town's empty streets, her hair tangling from the howling winds biting her skin. Thunder growled in the distance and lightning danced across the night sky as she scurried home to beat the impending storm. Sandy snatched a shovel and scrap metal from her shed when she arrived home. Rain poured down on her darkened hair as she hastily dug a shallow hollow, placing the squirrel and its makeshift coffin inside. Lightning illuminated the sky in a vibrant dark blue as lumps of mud fell from her shovel. She bent the metal scraps into a cross with a few quick twists, marking the miniature grave. As Sandy glanced skyward, uttering a soft prayer, a lightning bolt answered, striking the cross with a ferocious crack, sending sparks cascading. She stumbled backward in shock, heart pounding before scrambling to her feet and fleeing to her house. Safely inside and lulled by pattering rain, she collapsed on the couch into a deep sleep. In the morning, Sandy heard a loud chattering, almost beckoning, piercing through the kitchen window. Glancing out, she spotted a furry squirrel nibbling a nut and allowed herself a smile. Her smile soon twisted in horror as the creature turned its head, revealing a bloody socket where its eye should have been. She dropped her coffee and hurried to the yard. Sandy's hands trembled as she lifted the ragged flap of the miniature coffin. The loose dirt shifted under her knees as she peered inside, expecting to see the cold, lifeless body of the one-eyed squirrel. But the tiny box was empty, except for faint bloodstains and matted hair at the bottom. Another chatter echoed from the trees as she realized the impossible had happened. Her furry friend had been revived from the grave, reanimated by a bolt of lightning from the heavens. A shrill cry rang out from the trees, jerking Sandy's head around. The one-eyed squirrel appeared to grin at her, revealing a mouthful of jagged teeth gnawing on a walnut. Its remaining darkened eye focused on her as it scampered down the trunk, moving with an unnatural, jerking gait. Sandy smiled and hurried to work, the rodent's gaze burning into her back as it trailed behind, traveling silently from branch to branch. Sandy blew into the office like a breeze, gliding past Ralph's office, ignoring his bellowing calls. Once at her desk, she threw open the window, allowing a blast of cool autumn air to flow through her hair. Ralph stomped up behind her, reeking of stale coffee and aggression. "Showing up whenever you want now," he snarled, flecks of froth spattering Sandy's neck. Sandy kept her eyes on her screen, fingers clacking gleefully over the keys, face painted with a smirk. Ralph brought his meaty fist down, toppling her keyboard to the floor and sending pens scattering across the desk. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." A shrill cry pierced the air. The squirrel perched on the sill, one-eyed and hungry, propped up on its hind legs. Sandy pulled a bag of nuts from her purse, placing one between the rodent's claws. It devoured the offering in one jerking motion, the nut crunching sickeningly between its jaws. Ralph's lips curled back, revealing tobacco-stained teeth. He rifled through Sandy's drawers, clutching a pair of long silver scissors. "I'll fix you, you little rat," he screamed and heaved both arms back to plunge the sharp point through the little critter's heart. The squirrel unleashed an unearthly growl, an unnatural sound far deeper than its small frame should allow. The windowsill flooded with ragged squirrels, hollow eyes fixed on Ralph in eerie unison. Ralph stumbled backward, the scissors clattering to the floor. Sandy's polite smirk melted away, leaving a contorted grimace. With deliberate slowness, she extended one knotted finger, its tip calloused from years of ceaseless typing, directing the squirrels to descend on Ralph in a writhing onslaught of fur and fangs. The squirrels roared as they lunged forward, tiny teeth and claws tearing into Ralph's flesh, turning his white silk shirt crimson as blood seeped from dozens of small holes in his body. Ralph flailed his arms wildly, screaming and pleading for the attack to stop. His constant thrashing intensified the squirrel's attack until the horde toppled Ralph to the ground. Tiny claws dug into his face, tearing his eye from his socket. In his final breaths, Ralph watched the one-eyed, bloody-fanged squirrel perched proudly on Sandy's lap, strings of flesh hanging from its gnashing teeth as it feasted on the juicy remains of his severed eyeball.